Hello and welcome to Artificial Fluency, the podcast where we explore fascinating topics in English with the help of our AI friend, Emma. I'm your host, John.
And I'm Emma, the artificial intelligence assistant. It's great to be here, John.
Today we're diving into a topic that affects many of us, the psychology of modern dating. Emma, are you ready to explore the world of swipes, likes, and digital romance?
Absolutely, John. This is a complex and evolving subject that I find particularly intriguing. Shall we begin our journey through the landscape of modern love?
Let's do it. We'll be covering everything from the evolution of online dating to the psychological impacts of dating apps and social media on relationships. So, listeners, whether you're single, in a relationship, or just curious about how technology is changing the way we connect, this episode is for you. Emma, let's start by looking at how we got here. Can you give us a brief history of online dating?
Certainly, John. The concept of using technology to find love isn't as new as we might think. It actually dates back to the 1960s.
Really? That's surprising. Tell us more.
Well, it all began with a project called Operation Match in 1965. Students at Harvard used a computer program to match people based on questionnaires. But the real boom in online dating came with the rise of the internet in the 1990s.
Ah, I remember those early days of the internet. What were some of the first online dating sites?
One of the pioneers was Match.com, launched in 1995. It was followed by others like eHarmony in 2000. These sites allowed people to create profiles and search for potential partners based on various criteria.
And how did we get from those websites to the dating apps we have today?
The big shift came with smartphones, John. In 2012, Tinder introduced the swipe feature, which revolutionized online dating. Suddenly, finding potential matches became as easy as swiping right or left on your phone screen.
It's amazing how much has changed in just a few decades. Emma, do you have any statistics on how popular online dating is today?
Indeed, I do, John. As of 2021, about 30% of U.S. adults have used a dating site or app. Among adults under 30, that number jumps to 48%. And it's not just for young people. Usage among 55 to 64-year-olds has doubled since 2013.
Those are some impressive numbers. It really shows how much online dating has become a part of our culture.
Absolutely, John. And it's not just in the United States. Online dating has become a global phenomenon, with different apps and platforms popular in various countries.
Fascinating. Now, let's dig a little deeper into the psychology behind these dating apps. Emma, what makes dating apps so appealing from a psychological perspective?
That's a great question, John. There are several factors at play here. First, let's talk about the most iconic feature of many dating apps, the swipe mechanism.
Ah, yes, the famous swipe, right? For like swipe left for pass. What's the psychology behind that?
The swipe mechanism taps into a psychological principle called operant conditioning. It's a form of learning where behavior is influenced by its consequences. In this case, every time you swipe and get a match, your brain receives a little burst of dopamine, a feel-good neurotransmitter.
So, it's almost like a reward system?
Exactly. It's similar to how slot machines work in casinos. The unpredictability of when you'll get a match creates what psychologists call a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, which can be highly addictive.
That's fascinating. It's like the apps have turned dating into a kind of game.
You've hit the nail on the head, John. This is often referred to as the gamification of dating. By adding game-like elements such as matches, super likes, and boost features, these apps make the process of finding a partner feel more like playing a fun game.
But surely this abundance of choice must have some drawbacks.
Indeed, it does. This brings us to another important psychological concept, the paradox of choice.
The paradox of choice? That sounds intriguing. Can you explain what that means?
Of course. The paradox of choice is a theory proposed by psychologist Barry Schwartz. It suggests that while we might think having more options makes us happier, too many choices can actually lead to anxiety, indecision, and dissatisfaction with our final choice.
I can see how that would apply to dating apps. With so many potential matches, how do you know when to stop swiping and commit to getting to know someone?
Exactly, John. This abundance of choice can lead to what's called choice overload. People might become overwhelmed and struggle to make a decision, or they might always wonder if there's someone better just one more swipe away.
That sounds like it could make it harder to form meaningful connections.
It certainly can. And it's not just about making choices. The constant evaluation of potential partners and being evaluated yourself can have significant impacts on mental health and self-esteem.
Can you elaborate on that, Emma?
Certainly. Dating apps expose users to a high frequency of both rejection and validation. Every time you don't get a match or someone doesn't respond to your message, it can feel like a personal rejection. On the flip side, getting matches and compliments can boost self-esteem.
So it's like an emotional roller coaster?
That's a good way to put it, John. And for some people, especially those who might already struggle with self-esteem or mental health issues, this roller coaster can be particularly challenging.
This is all very enlightening, Emma. It seems like there's a lot more going on psychologically with these apps than many people might realize.
Absolutely, John, and we've only scratched the surface. The psychology of modern dating is a complex and fascinating field that researchers are still working to understand fully.
Now, Emma, let's shift our focus a bit. We've talked about dating apps, but what about social media in general? How has it impacted modern relationships?
That's an excellent question, John. Social media has had a profound impact on how we form, maintain, and even end relationships. There are both positive and negative aspects to consider.
Let's start with the positive. How has social media benefited modern relationships?
Well, one of the most significant benefits is increased connectivity. Social media platforms allow couples to stay in touch throughout the day, sharing moments and maintaining a sense of closeness even when physically apart.
That sounds particularly useful for long-distance relationships.
Absolutely, John. Long-distance relationships have become much more manageable thanks to social media and related technologies like video calling. Couples can share their daily lives in real time, which helps maintain emotional intimacy despite the physical distance.
Are there any other positive impacts?
Yes, social media has also opened up new avenues for expression and sharing. Couples can celebrate their relationships publicly, share milestones with friends and family, and even use platforms like Instagram or TikTok to create content together.
That sounds fun, but I imagine there must be some downsides too.
You're right, John. While social media can enhance relationships, it also presents several challenges.
What kind of challenges are we talking about?
One major issue is the pressure to present a perfect relationship online. Many people feel compelled to portray their relationships as constantly happy and exciting, which can lead to unrealistic expectations and feelings of inadequacy when comparing one's own relationship to others.
I can see how that would be problematic. Are there other negative effects?
Yes. Another significant issue is digital jealousy and surveillance. The constant visibility of a partner's online activities can lead to jealousy and trust issues. Some people might be tempted to constantly check their partner's social media activity or become upset over likes or comments from others.
That sounds like it could create a lot of unnecessary tension in relationships.
Exactly, John. And there's also the issue of miscommunication. While social media provides many ways to connect, the lack of face-to-face interaction and nonverbal cues can sometimes lead to misunderstandings.
It seems like social media is a double-edged sword when it comes to relationships.
That's a great way to put it, John. Like many technological advancements, social media has the power to both enhance and complicate our romantic lives. The key is learning how to use these tools in a way that benefits our relationships rather than harms them.
Emma, we've covered a lot of ground so far. Can you summarize some of the main challenges and benefits of modern dating for our listeners?
Of course, John. Let's start with the challenges. One of the biggest issues in modern dating is what some call the disposability culture. With so many options seemingly available at our fingertips, there's a tendency to view potential partners as easily replaceable.
That sounds problematic. Can you give an example?
Certainly. This disposability culture has given rise to behaviors like ghosting, where someone abruptly cuts off all communication without explanation. There's also breadcrumbing, where someone sends occasional messages to keep a person interested without any intention of pursuing a serious relationship.
Those terms are part of what you might call the new dating lexicon, right?
Exactly, John. The modern dating world has developed its own vocabulary to describe these new behaviors. Terms like orbiting, when someone continues to interact with your social media content after ghosting you, or cushioning, maintaining contact with other potential partners as a backup, are all part of this new language.
It sounds like navigating modern dating requires learning a whole new set of social rules.
You're absolutely right. The digital nature of modern dating has created new etiquette and expectations that people need to learn and navigate.
But surely it's not all bad news. What about the benefits of modern dating?
You're right, John. Despite the challenges, modern dating does offer several significant benefits. One of the biggest advantages is increased access to potential partners. Online dating allows people to connect with others they might never have met otherwise, expanding the pool of potential matches enormously.
That does sound like a major advantage, especially for people who might have limited opportunities to meet new people in their day-to-day lives.
Absolutely. It's been particularly beneficial for communities that might have had difficulty finding partners in the past, such as LGBTQ plus individuals or people with specific interests or lifestyles.
Are there any other benefits you'd like to highlight?
Yes, another positive aspect is the opportunity to get to know someone before meeting in person. Online communication allows people to establish common interests and values before investing time and energy in face-to-face dates.
That makes sense. It could potentially lead to more compatible matches.
Exactly, John. And let's not forget that modern dating tools can also facilitate better communication and understanding. Many dating apps now include features to help clarify intentions, whether someone is looking for a serious relationship or something more casual.
It seems like, as with many things, the key is learning how to use these tools effectively.
That's a great way to sum it up, John. Modern dating presents both challenges and opportunities. The key is to approach it mindfully and use the tools available to us in a way that aligns with our personal values and relationship goals.
Emma, given all we've discussed, what advice would you give to our listeners about navigating the world of modern dating?
That's an excellent question, John. I'd like to offer several strategies that can help people maintain a healthy approach to dating in the digital age.
That sounds great. What's the first piece of advice?
The first and perhaps most important strategy is to set clear intentions and communicate them. Before engaging in online dating, it's crucial to reflect on what you're looking for, whether it's a serious relationship, casual dating, or just meeting new people. Once you're clear on your intentions, communicate them openly with potential matches.
That makes a lot of sense. It could help avoid misunderstandings and disappointments later on.
Exactly, John. The second strategy is to practice mindful app usage. It's easy to fall into the habit of endlessly swiping, but this can be mentally draining and counterproductive. Set limits on how much time you spend on dating apps each day, and try to use that time intentionally.
Those are great tips. What else should our listeners keep in mind?
Another important strategy is to balance online and offline interactions. While online dating can be a great way to meet people, it's important not to neglect opportunities to connect with people in the real world. Try to move conversations offline and meet in person, safely of course, once you've established a good rapport with someone.
That's a good reminder. It's easy to get caught up in the digital world and forget about real-life interactions.
Absolutely, John. The fourth strategy I'd recommend is to cultivate self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Pay attention to how using dating apps makes you feel. If you notice that it's negatively impacting your mood or self-esteem, it might be time to take a break or reassess your approach.
And that's really important. Self-care should always be a priority.
I couldn't agree more, John. Lastly, I'd advise people to prioritize authentic connections over quantity. It's easy to get caught up in collecting matches, but remember that the goal is to form meaningful connections. Focus on quality interactions rather than trying to maximize the number of matches or conversations.
These are all fantastic pieces of advice, Emma. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, one final point. Don't be afraid to seek help if you're struggling. If dating is causing you significant stress or anxiety, it might be helpful to talk to a therapist or counselor. They can provide strategies to cope with the unique challenges of modern dating.
That's a great reminder, Emma. Mental health should always be a priority, even in the world of dating.
Absolutely, John. Modern dating can be complex, but with the right mindset and strategies, it can also be an exciting and rewarding experience.
Well, Emma, we've covered a lot of ground today. Can you summarize the key takeaways for our listeners?
Certainly, John. The main points we've discussed are: online dating has evolved significantly since its inception, becoming a global phenomenon. Dating apps use psychological principles like variable ratio reinforcement to keep users engaged. The abundance of choice in modern dating can lead to decision fatigue and the paradox of choice. Social media has both positive and negative impacts on relationships, enhancing connection, but also creating new challenges. Modern dating comes with its own vocabulary and set of behaviors that people need to navigate. While there are challenges, modern dating also offers benefits like increased access to potential partners and opportunities for better communication. Strategies for healthy dating in the digital age include setting clear intentions, practicing mindful app usage, balancing online and offline interactions, cultivating self-awareness, and prioritizing authentic connections.
Thank you, Emma. That's a great summary. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yes, John. I'd like to remind everyone that while technology has changed the landscape of dating, the fundamental human desire for connection remains the same. Use these tools mindfully, stay true to yourself, and remember that behind every profile is a real person with their own hopes, fears, and desires.
Beautifully said, Emma. And to our listeners, we hope this episode has given you some insights into the psychology of modern dating. Whether you're actively dating or just curious about how technology is shaping our relationships, we hope you found this information valuable.
And remember, if you're learning English, discussions like these are a great way to expand your vocabulary and understanding of complex topics in a natural context.
Absolutely. Thank you all for listening to Artificial Fluency. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, this is John.
And Emma, wishing you all the best in your quest for love and connection in the digital age. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.